What's going on, guys? Tom Nichols, Blue Collar Boys, here with my dad, Chief Tom Nichols, Chief Blue Eyes, the founder and original chief of the Santa Rosa County Creek Indian Tribe and owner of Benchmark Surveying. This is going to be our very first episode in this series, telling you a little bit about who he is and a lot about the heritage in this area. Sadly, so many have no clue about all the amazing things that happened right here in your home. So that's why we have this gentleman. He is a living, breathing encyclopedia when it comes to this area's native peoples and this county as well. So guys, sit back, relax, let's go for a ride. And guys, like I was saying, this is episode 1. This is the episode we're going to get to know a little bit about this gentleman, and we're going to walk around his wonderful office here. He's going to point out some interesting things and tell you about them, and that's going to be our first episode. And then we're going to lead from there to the history. We're going to start from the beginning of our Creek peoples in this area and go from there and work our way up to where we are now. So with that said, you ready, Dad?
Ready.
Alrighty. Who are you?
I'm Thomas Nichols. I was born in Atmore, Alabama in 1953. I was raised in Santa Rosa County. Mom and Dad were visiting relatives up in Atmore area when she got the urge to have me, and so I can say my obituary will say native of Alabama but a lifelong resident of Florida.
Right.
I spent 2 days in Alabama when I was born.
Well, you can always claim the Crimson Tide right there for you.
I attended Milton High School and Pensacola Junior College. We formed the tribe in 1990. And it's been in existence ever since. We started out basically with a dream.
Right.
And today the tribe owns land and has buildings and things, and that we have a culture center, and the dream come true. We started with nothing, and it took us 31 years to do it, but we did it.
Right.
And I retired from the tribe, and after 31 years.
Mm-hmm. From day one till you finally retired. Now, going back about the history on it a little bit, where did you first get the urge or find out that you were native? How did that come to be?
My mother got real sick, and we thought that she might pass away. And my sisters was going through her personal items, trying to separate them and get them in order. And they found a letter from a lady by the name of Lenise Shelton from Montgomery, Alabama, asking Mother about the names of her children and their ages because they were descendants of the Native Americans.
Right.
Her mother never replied, and she just left the letter, and we found the letter, so I found it, or my sisters found it, and give it to me. And I called Miss Shelton in Montgomery, Alabama, and her husband answered the phone, and I asked to speak to Miss Shelton, and he said I couldn't. She had passed away. He said he had a closet full of records that she had obtained over the years, and if I wanted them, come get them.
Right.
So I took and went to Montgomery the next day and got the records, and there was a closet full. And brought them back and tried to decipher them and read everything I could about them, and found out that our family had a great culture that goes back to the Creek Nation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what got me started, that letter.
Right.
And in that information that I found, there was a letter from my great-great-great-grandfather who was a fur trader in the Creek Nation who married a Creek woman by the name of Peggy. He was also worked for the Indian agent Benjamin Hawkins, where he would come into Pensacola's Patent and Forbes Trading Post and buy supplies for the Indian agent, and is documented in the book of Benjamin Hawkins.
Okay. So that's how all this got started. From that right there led to where this tribe basically is today. From that letter, pretty much.
And from that letter spoke about how the people were being mistreated, and that by the laws of the town, he prayed that the General Assembly of the Mississippi Territory would do something to help the Native Americans at that time.
Right.
They were being abused, and he was shouting out for them. He was an advocate for them.
Right.
Because he had a wife and children who were Native.
Yeah. Now, what is a lot of folks know about, of course, Wind Creek and Atmore and all that. Where does Santa Rosa County in Northwest Florida come into play with the Creek heritage?
Well, there are creeks throughout Northwest Florida and South Alabama, so it's numerous tribes. And the Porch is the only one in the area that's federally recognized.
Right.
That's why they have casinos.
Mm-hmm.
There is one other state tribe in Florida that is state recognized, but the other tribes are not state recognized or federally recognized in Florida, except the Mississippi and the Seminole.
Right.
Are the ones that's federally recognized in Florida.
Now you're talking about the Bruce tribe, correct? The one that's state recognized, right?
That's right.
Okay. Now, when you were growing up, did you have any inkling did your family members, uncles, aunts, or anything like that, did they think that they were Native? Did they do any, stuff like any dances, any heritage things that you ever heard or seen, or any rumors growing up?
Well, I heard that my great-grandfather, on my mother's side, had a flatbed truck, and he would gather up the family and take them somewhere deep in the woods in South Alabama. And I believe that they were meeting as Native Americans.
Right. Because they couldn't meet out in public, right?
Well, we were outlawed in Florida twice, in 1825 and 1845, and be shot on sight.
Wow.
We were removed from this area in 1830 to 1839. It was called the Indian Removal Act, and some people call it the Trail of Tears.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Choctaw and our people of the Creek were the first ones shipped to Oklahoma, and later the Chickasaw, Seminole, and Cherokee would also be forced to the Oklahoma Territory.
Right. Now, one thing that when I talk to folks always seems to come up is the Trail of Tears, and some of them will say, "Well, if they were shipped off to Oklahoma, how are they still here? So how did that some of them remain here when most of them was shipped off?"
Well, our family hid out in the backwoods swamps of South Alabama and Northwest Florida. And as time passed, they would blend in if they were light-skinned with white people. And if they were dark-skinned, they blended in with the black people.
Right.
And it was only on the census, it's only two things, either white or black.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's almost impossible to find where there's Native Americans shown other than the porch rolls of 1870 to 1910.
Wow, I didn't know that right there. That would make sense. Now, one thing that I've heard, of course, a lot of folks in this area that are from here, there's a good chance that they may be Native, but they grew up not knowing this. But one of the things that's come across me is I'm this, and Black Dutch. Is there a such thing as Black Dutch, or what was the story behind how that came to be right there?
Well, from what I'm told from my grandmother and my mother and people like that back then, it was that the the census people would come around and ask them what their nationality were. And they would say that they were Black Dutch. And they would use that because of the being darkness of their skin.
Right.
And so they passed themselves off as Black Dutch as their nationality, and there was no such thing as Black Dutch.
And so they done that so they wouldn't be basically removed, and so they could stay where they're at.
Well, if
land
you're Indian, you're illegal to be here.
Yeah. So it makes sense, and it's crazy because to this day I still have folks say that I'm this, and Black Dutch, and every time I hear that word, it sends off a shock to me. I'm like, wait a minute, and your family's you've lived here your whole life. Your family's from here. It just makes you you wonder how many more folks have no clue about their own heritage, and it's really sad. And I wish a lot more folks would do the homework and dig a little bit and find out where they come from, because this area is full of some amazing history right here that most people don't know about.
It is. There's a lot of history here that, like you say, that most people don't even know about. Yeah. There's actually a house that I know of that's sitting on top of a burial ground on the bay down there. And the people built the house there 40 years ago, and they built it because it was a high spot on the bayou.
Of course, it was a high spot because it was a burial ground. Wow. And speaking of something that a lot of folks don't know about, right here, and we had people like Andrew Jackson,
Davy
Crockett, and Woodbine Springs and Florida Town Bay right there. That's why a lot of folks don't know to this day why that subdivision down there is called Andrew Jackson Estates. They thought it was just, it's a president and we're going to name it after a president. And so many folks that I speak with, Sam speaks with, you speak with, they have no clue that man was here and why that area is called Andrew Jackson Estates and the Andrew Jackson Hotel right there all those years ago, because where he was at was a creek, it was a village right there.
Well, we had found a burial ground there.
Right. Where Florida Town Park is now, correct?
Right.
Okay.
There was a burial ground that the road washed out. One of the roads that go through Florida Town had washed out.
It was Hurricane Aaron.
Hurricane Aaron.
96, yep.
And it uncovered a burial ground, the washout did. Mm-hmm. And I got with the county, and the county put it back just like it was. And thank God there was no looting or anything out of it, but there's a burial ground. It was also the campsite for Andrew Jackson.
Yep.
And that's where he went from Florida Town to Pensacola, or really to Gonzales, and then into Pensacola.
Right.
And the first thing Andrew Jackson done was hang two of our chiefs.
Wow.
In downtown Pensacola.
I'm guessing just to send a message that he's in charge, basically, and don't try anything, or was there a reason behind it?
Well, he wanted to show he was the big chief.
Gotcha. Don't test him, basically.
He became head of the area down here for Florida, and but we had a Creek War, and we'll go into it more later. That was in 1813, 1814 that brought Jackson here.
Right.
And it started basically as a civil war between the Creek Indians. You had the White Sticks and you had the Red Sticks, and the Red Sticks were the ones who held war. The White Sticks was the peacemakers.
Right.
And they fought with Chief William McIntosh being on the side of the White Sticks, and William Weatherford, Chief Red Eagle, being on the side of the Red Sticks.
Mm-hmm.
There was a great battle fought at Horseshoe Bend, north of Montgomery, and basically wiped out the Creek Nation. Andrew Jackson did at the Battle of Horseshoe Bend.
Yep.
And a lot of the Red Sticks left that area and came into Florida and joined the Seminoles. Now, most people don't know it, but the Seminoles are Creeks.
Mm-hmm.
They came out of Georgia and eventually went into Florida, then it went on down to South Florida. The word Seminole means wild ones.
In the Creek language,
The
correct?
Creek language means
Right.
wild ones, and a lot of history, and we'll go a piece at a time and
Yeah.
try to uncover the secrets that a lot of people don't know. But there is a lot of history in Santa Rosa County.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it's so important that we preserve as much of the history here that we possibly can. Because once it's gone,
It's gone.
yep. And that's one of the reasons growing up that you always preached to us, one of the reasons you started the tribe was to keep that history alive and to pass it down.
Mm-hmm.
And you've done a great job of doing that, and it's still alive and kicking to this day. So thank you for doing that.
It was an honor to do it.
Yeah, and like I said, you open the eyes to so many with that tribe, because most people had no clue they were native.
Well, we held powwows down at Florida Town since 1990,
Yep.
up until the last couple of years, and we got a chance for the community to come in and be involved with the Native Americans and enjoy our heritage.
Yep.
And we did that for many years at Florida Town, and now we moved out to Willow Norris Road is where they have the powwows now.
Yep.
And the land that we got for the tribe over the years. But we look forward to coming back and enjoying the show and bringing the knowledge that we can and try to enjoy the time we've spent together.
Absolutely. What I want to do real quick, guys, is we're going to take a walk around Dad's office up here. And so if you get a chance, you want to ever come by and talk to him. He loves talking about the Native people. He's very knowledgeable. And if you're ever up here, stop by. He would love to speak with you. I have people calling me all the time asking, hey, can you ask your dad this? Can you ask your dad that? I'm like, why don't you call him and ask him? He knows he's the one with the answers. But so if you ever get up here and you want to talk to him about the Indians, come on in. But anyway, we're going to take a walk around the office real quick, and he's going to point out some interesting things and tell a little bit about them. Let's take a walk. This drawing right here, tell us a little bit about it.
It's a drawing where Red Eagle, William Weatherford, jumped off the side of a cliff into the Alabama River ahead of American troops back in the Creek Indian War of 1813-1814. And this was given to me from a friend who made it from a computer. It's all computer drawn, and you'd never guess it by looking at it.
Mm-mm.
It's all dots, and it's
wow.
a beautiful drawing, and I really cherish it.
Absolutely.
This is a picture where we went down in 1999 and opened up the legislation with the Lord's Prayer in the Creek language, and Malcolm Reed, Tim Talbert, of course, Representative Jeff Miller, and myself participated in opening the legislation with the Lord's Prayer in the Creek language.
That's a big milestone right there.
This right here is the state of Florida minority business certification that I received for being a Native American. And I have had this certification for minority status for probably over 25 years. I was the first minority business in Santa Rosa County as a Native American, and one of only 23 in the whole state of Florida.
Wow.
And this goes back to the early 2000s. This is an article from the Pensacola News Journal where my heritage was recognized, and came out that at the time that minority status brings more benefits, and more Native Americans were needed for minority businesses, and this was again about 15, 20 years ago when we did this.
Yep.
This is the picture of the burial mounds that we were invited to come out to at NES Pensacola and they took us and showed us where the bones were found. They were Native Americans, and asked us to join with them into finding out what we needed to do with the remains. And after a day of talking and negotiating, we asked the Navy, Captain Thompson, there in the middle, would he help us? And he decided not to put a building there where they had planned to put a building, and left the remains in place and moved the side of the building somewhere else. Also, from what I understand, he took and designated an area in the National Cemetery, an acre, for any time Native American remains had to be moved, they got a place to go.
Wow,
And
nice.
that was great of Captain Thompson.
Yes, it was.